Hello everyone. As the new year approaches, I thought it'd be interesting to see how 20th century science fiction perceived the year 2021. Here we go.
Well, Hank, you've been frozen for the last 50 years. We just thawed you out.
What year is it? 2021. Welcome to the future, Hank.
That's from a 1991 episode of a show called Superforce about an astronaut turned cop played by Ken Oland, who uses future tech to fight crime. He is assisted by pixelated Patrick McNee visible on two video screens. Fashions have not changed much in the years since 1991, but the villain very pleasingly is a disembodied head in a box. The earliest story that I've found set in 2021 is a BBC television play called The Voices, broadcast in 1955. Sadly, of course, it's been completely lost from the archives and all we have is the Radio Times listings. It was based on a novel called Heroes Walk by Robert Crane, and it's set in a future London dominated by Intercos, the seat of the world government. However, voices from space threaten to upset the nefarious dealings of the Intercos leaders. For us Doctor Who fans, there's a point of interest in that two of the smaller parts are played by Kevin Stoney, who went on to be a big name in Doctor Who villains in the 1960s, and Barry Letts, who went on to be a big name in Doctor Who production in the 1970s. A lot of stories about the future concentrate on technological advance, so I'm going to look at a few of those now, although I have to warn you that several also have references to plague. Where better to start than good old Superman? In the early 1980s, the Superman comic ran a storyline about Superman's grandson, most of it actually set in 2020, but the final two stories were set in the year 2021. And you'll be interested to learn that in the year 2021, some of us will live in the sky, in floating cities, hovering high in the air. Air cars will replace automobiles, but the traffic jams will be as bad as ever. And in a stunning blow of accuracy, citizens will get their news anywhere at any time with a mere push of a button. Unfortunately, we're not yet reading the sports results off the Skydome. And guess what? 2021 begins with a plague, worse than the Maldavian flu of 2014. You'll be glad to hear that Superman is able to cure everybody more or less instantly because he's Superman. The 1995 film Johnny Mnemonic, adapted from a short story by William Gibson, stars Keanu Reeves as a human data store transporting an important cargo to Beijing in a future where 160 gigabytes is unimaginably vast. I'm afraid that there is also a plague, fatal, epidemic, its cause and cure unknown. Keanu doesn't seem to be very awake in this film, but here is a wonderful moment where he enters cyberspace, watched anxiously by Dina Meyer.
Password enter. Welcome to BRT Online. Global net selected. What are you doing?
Making a long-distance phone call. Beijing, a hotel.
Beijing selected. Access denied. Access granted. Hotel Beijing selected. General account selected.
Fax charges Suite 2571, 15 January 2021, say 11:15 p.m. to 11:30 p.m.
Science fiction isn't just books and films and TV, it's also games, and we're looking here at a game called Degeneration, produced by Mindscape in 1991. Here you play a courier making an emergency delivery to a laboratory in Singapore, little realizing that the lab has been overrun by genetically engineered bioweapons. And guess what else has happened? Yes, there's been a plague. The animation, if you lose the game, is rather endearing. Next, we're going to Japan for the manga series AI Revolution, written and illustrated by Yu Asami. It's about Sui, the daughter of a genius engineer, and Vermilion, a high-tech robot created by her father that looks, talks, and acts just like a human teenage boy. Sui is tasked with teaching him what it means to be human, not expecting to find herself falling in love. The streetscape of 2021 Japan doesn't look very different from that of the 1990s. Probably the best known science fiction set in 2021 is Philip K. Dick's novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, although it was originally set in 1992 and updated to 2021 in later editions. It's the basis for the film Blade Runner, which is set in 2019. Like the film, the novel is about a policeman hunting down androids that can pass as human in a world depopulated by war. It also has some other themes, a TV religion called mercerism, a general fixation with real live animals rather than robot versions, and some typical Philip K. Dick moments where you and the main character are brought to question the very nature of reality. 50 years ago, it was reasonable to think that we would soon see people living their entire lives away from the planet Earth. Here are 3 visions of life on other worlds, all from the 1960s. We're going to start with a 1963 episode of The Twilight Zone. And you know what? I think I'll let it speak for itself.
What are we listening for up there? 30 years, 2 watches a day. What have we ever heard? Wind noise. What do we ever pick up on the radar screen? Dust particles.
This is William Benteen, who officiates on a disintegrating outpost in space. The people are a remnant society who left the Earth looking for a millennium. A place without war, without jeopardy, without fear. And what they found was a lonely, barren place whose only industry was survival. And this is what they've done for 3 decades, survive. Until the memory of the Earth they came from has become an indistinct and shadowed recollection of another time and another place. 1 month ago, a signal from Earth announced that a ship would be coming to pick them up and take them home. In just a moment, we'll hear more of that ship. More of that home and what it takes out of mind and body to reach it. This is the Twilight Zone.
So the rescue ship does arrive, but Captain Benteen finds that he cannot cope with the prospect of leaving the planet that he and his people have called home for 30 years, and he stays behind while everybody else leaves. Another classic TV show, The Outer Limits, has an episode set in 2021 where the first manned landing on Mars does not go well.
Doing arrival report. Time 13:48. Mars time, that is, Colonel. On Earth, you will be receiving this exactly 3.5 minutes from now, so just add that to my figures. Captain Thomas reports no sign of life.
Stay where you are, Jim. Stay where you are.
Fred, where are you? Answer me, Fred! Oh my God! Help me, Fred!
What's up there? What's doing it? No sign of life, he said.
Well, that was some acting, wasn't it? And some directing too. But let us note that the rescue crew sent to find out what has happened is multiracial and led by Adam West, better known as Batman. However, the production values do leave something to be desired. We're in very different territory with the film Moon 02, made by Hammer, better known for their horror films, in 1969, and quite firmly set in May 2021. The opening titles are quite wonderful. Just sit back and enjoy this. The story centers around a 6,000-ton asteroid made of pure sapphire, pure ceramic sapphire, if you don't mind. It stars James Olsen as an astronaut, Catherine Schell as a young woman looking for her lost brother, Adrienne Corey as the head of lunar security, and Warren Mitchell as the evil millionaire. Also a shout out to Roy Evans, who has small parts in lots of British science fiction of the era. And here's a glorious takeoff from the surface of the moon. The dark side of science fiction is when things go horribly wrong. Here are some dystopian visions of the world of tomorrow. There is an urban legend that the Mel Gibson film Mad Max is set in 2021. This is not actually true, but I can give you the 1988 film The Sisterhood as something along the same lines.
The final war leveled the old world to the ground. It also demolished all form of order. Warlords ruled with iron fist and ravaged the land. The strong prevailed, the weak fell by the wayside. Amidst this chaos and anarchy, a band of gifted women roamed the outlands, pledged to the sacred duty of restoring peace and equality. They were called the Sisterhood.
You'll be glad to know that the Sisterhood are able to defend themselves and heal each other by the use of psychic powers. The point of a film like this is the action sequences, and I have to admit that they're not bad. Incidentally, the reason that one character is wearing tight blue jeans, which you would have thought a bit impractical in a post-apocalyptic environment, is that the product placement fee from Levi funded the entire film. Another post-apocalyptic world is the 1992 game Scorcher, basically a race game which is not as good as Mario Kart and for that reason is largely forgotten now. Back to Japan for another manga, Oz by Natsume Itsuki, set 31 years after World War III, which happened in 1990. Here our heroine is Felicia, looking for the high-tech city called Oz, guided by a beautiful but dangerous robot sent by her brother. Probably the best known of these dystopias is The Children of Men, a novel by P.D. James. Let's hear from her.
And of course it's the first book that I've set in the future. I don't much like science fiction myself. I know some wonderful writing is done in that genre, but it's not my genre. So it's rather surprising that I've written something which some people may see as science fiction, but I don't, because it's not a very different world from ours that I portray there, except of course for that one terrifying central fact that no child has been born in that world for 25 years.
Yeah. With the greatest of respect, I think that does make it science fiction. It's the story of a man who is drawn into the resistance to the dictator of England, who is also his cousin. All is further disrupted when it turns out that human fertility is not completely finished after all. Finally, in Macrolife by George Zabrowski, which had quite a strong following at one time, the planet Earth simply disintegrates in the year 2021, leaving the remnants of humanity to find their future on an adapted asteroid. Whatever the year throws at us, it's unlikely to be quite that bad. But rather than finish on a downbeat note, let's go back to Moon 02 and applaud the performance of the Gojos at the Lunar Hilton Hotel. I hope that there will always be time for dancing, whatever next year brings. If you have been, thank you for listening.